Yeah, so the VERITAC-2 trial was a very straightforward design, essentially looking at Vepdegestrant, which is an oral PROTAC inhibitor, in a 1-to-1 fashion against Fulvestrant, which is our intramuscular SERD. Really, this trial was done due to phase 1/2 data showing a good efficacy and favorable tolerability of Vepdegestrant. And we don't have a great standard in the second-line setting after CDK4/6 inhibitors. Fulvestrant is plagued by being intramuscular, as well as in a post-CDK4/6 landscape having a PFS of less than 2 months, essentially. So in this trial, we did find that we met the primary endpoint. Vepdegestrant lengthened progression-free survival in patients with ESR1 mutations that had already received CDK4/6 inhibitors, 5.0 months versus 2.1 months with Fulvestrant. We then went on to test progression-free survival in the all-comer population. This was not statistically significant, so the benefit was restricted to those patients with ESR1 mutations. And we also saw a doubling of clinical benefit rate with Vepdegestrant and a quadrupling of the objective response rate with Vepdegestrant compared to Fulvestrant. Yeah, that's a great question. I think that's something a lot of people are still confused about, the real difference between a PROTAC and a SERD. It's true that they both degrade the estrogen receptor, but Vepdegestrant being a PROTAC does that in a unique way. PROTAC really stands for proteolysis targeting chimera. This molecule binds the estrogen receptor on one side, and it binds E3 ligase on the other side. And so this brings E3 ligase into close proximity with the estrogen receptor, which allows ubiquitination of the estrogen receptor and ultimately the proteasome to come in and degrade it. I think compared to Fulvestrant, one of the big advantages is the fact that it's oral, and we think that this little bit of a different mechanism of action for degradation may help overcome some resistance pathways that may be present with other compounds. So all of the patients on the trial had already seen a CDK4/6 inhibitor, so this was very representative of the patients with breast cancer we see in the second-line setting currently. We saw that 43% of patients had ESR1 mutations, and so I think we expected this, especially as patients are on aromatase inhibitors longer in the first-line setting with CDK4/6 around. And again, the benefit was restricted to those patients that had ESR1 mutations, not unlike we've seen with other data like elacestrant. Yeah, so I think this is probably one of the things I'm most excited about was the safety and the tolerability. I like to look at whether something's well tolerated by looking at dose reductions and discontinuations of drug, and we saw 3% of patients on Vepdegestrant discontinuing and only 2% having a dose reduction. So really indicating to me that this truly was well tolerated. The most common 3 side effects were really fatigue at 27% any grade. So said a different way, 75% of the patients had no fatigue. And then the second and third most common were nausea and AST, ALT elevations, again, any grade being in the low teens. What we didn't see was a lot of gastrointestinal side effects. That can be a prominent side effect with some of the oral SERDs. And what you don't see reported on our adverse event table was vomiting or diarrhea, because this was present across all grades in less than 10% of patients, only 6%.
So,
Yeah, what's next for Vepdegestrant? It's a fantastic question. This was a registrational trial, so there will be conversations with global health authorities for approval based on this trial. There's a lot of places that Vepdegestrant could go. We could look in combination with CDK4/6 and bring these into the first-line setting. We could also be looking at the adjuvant setting. And then one of the fantastic things about these novel endocrine backbones is just like our existing endocrine agents, we can combine them. So we could be combining them with PI3 pathway inhibitors, et cetera. So we'll have to have further conversations with the company about what may be next.